Meghan Markle is said to be in tears behind closed doors after one explosive claim sent royal watchers into a frenzy. Was little Lilibet quietly left off a palace invitation list while cameras stayed focused somewhere else? And when Piers Morgan grabbed that rumor and blasted it into the spotlight, the whispers turned into wildfire. Because this is no longer just another celebrity spat. This is about status, access, power, and one tiny name that suddenly became the loudest silence in the room.
She was never pregnant at all. Instead, the videos emboldened conspiracy theorists. They're calling it Megspiracy.
This case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of
Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so much?
The storm reportedly began when insiders started murmuring about a private royal gathering tied to upcoming family planning, future appearances, and selective introductions for the next generation of royals. Nothing public, nothing dramatic on paper, just the kind of quiet event the palace loves, carefully managed, polished, discreet. But then came the detail nobody could ignore. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis, and other senior family children were allegedly discussed for future ceremonial moments, while Lilibet's name was nowhere to be found. That alone would have raised eyebrows. But then Piers Morgan stepped in and asked the question nobody wanted asked. If the Sussex children still carry royal titles, if their names are still woven into headlines and prestige, how could one of them be missing when family invitations were being quietly shaped? He did not whisper it. He hit it like a hammer, and suddenly every royal watcher was staring at the same gap. According to those following the situation, Meghan did not expect the rumor to gain this much speed, because once the idea of a Lilibet snub entered the conversation, it changed everything. It was no longer about public relations. It became personal. A child, a granddaughter of a king, a name connected to Queen Elizabeth herself. And if that child was allegedly sidelined, what message would that send to the world?
All Harry and Meghan need to do is prove to us that she popped those babies out. If they don't, it is unfair on the children. It's also unfair on the royal family, because it puts the royal family in a very invidious position, because the royal family, there are certain things they can and can't do by law, and Meghan and Harry know.
Well, Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent bilge on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its racism.
This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
Sources close to Montecito claim tension inside the home spiked immediately. Meghan, already sensitive to how the children are portrayed in royal circles, reportedly saw this as more than a scheduling issue. She allegedly viewed it as a symbolic line being drawn, not spoken aloud, not officially announced, but understood all the same. Inclusion for some, distance for others. And this is where the emotion deepened, because Lilibet is not just any child in this story. Her very name carries the private nickname of the late queen. For years, that name has been debated, defended, criticized, and analyzed from every angle. So imagine the sting, say watchers, if the child carrying that name was now being frozen out of palace moments. Whether true or not, the optics alone were brutal. Piers Morgan wasted no time pressing harder. He argued that the monarchy cannot have it both ways. If titles matter, then family access should matter too. If bloodline matters, then recognition should follow. But if invitations vanish while titles remain useful for headlines, then what exactly is going on behind those palace gates? That question landed hard because it exposed the one thing royal institutions hate most: contradiction.
Everything that Meghan is doing in her pursuit to become a lifestyle billionaire goes completely against the agreement that she made with Prince Harry not to exploit their children for commercial gain.
Harry and Meghan playing games that resulted in people unnecessarily questioning things. Every toxicity is a result of them.
Now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California and use the their own royal titles to make loads of money.
Then came another twist. Some insiders reportedly claimed no formal invitation had been sent because the gathering was never meant for overseas family members. Others whispered that it was less about geography and more about trust. Who can attend privately without leaks? Who can appear without becoming the story? Who can be present without cameras somehow finding out later? Those questions added another layer of ice to an already cold situation. For Meghan, the pain reportedly was not just about herself. It was about the future. Because every small moment creates a bigger narrative. Every omission becomes precedent. First one event, then another. Then years pass and distance becomes normal. That is what allegedly triggered the tears, not one invitation, but what it could represent over time. Piers Morgan then sharpened the blade again by suggesting this was evidence of a larger royal reset already underway. Slimmer monarchy, tighter inner circle, fewer names in active orbit, more separation between working royals and everyone else. If that is the strategy, critics say, then Harry's children may be finding themselves in the most awkward position of all, royal by title, distant by reality.
With either Archie or Lily, and it needs to happen. They need to prove that those children, Meghan and Harry, are not entitled to privacy in this matter. And their privacy is trumped by our right to know that no bastard is going to sit on the throne of this country.
Apparently, they invited all the royals to Lilibet's christening, but they all declined to come, as if they're all going to get on a plane and fly to California to embrace the people who've been trashing them for the last 3 years. But it looks like from the jungle drums, they have been invited.
A lot of the royal watchers were complaining that they felt like her posts on social media where she barely shows the kids is almost taunting the king, who doesn't know these children, and how unfair this is.
And while no palace spokesperson publicly confirmed any snub, silence only fed the frenzy. Because silence in royal matters is never empty. It becomes a screen where everyone projects their own theory. Supporters of Meghan said she was being punished through the children. Critics argued consequences naturally follow years of attacks and interviews. Neutrals simply watched the contradiction grow larger by the hour. Then another painful question surfaced. If Lilibet was truly excluded, what about Archie? Was he overlooked too? Or was the focus specifically on Lilibet because of symbolism, succession optics, or future branding fears? Nobody seemed to know. But once children enter a royal controversy, public interest explodes. Back in California, sources claimed Meghan felt blindsided because efforts to preserve family links had allegedly been made quietly for months. Birthday gestures, private outreach, soft attempts at reconnection. If true, then seeing Lilibet tied to a snub rumor would feel like a door closing after years of trying to keep it open. And Piers Morgan, sensing blood in the water, doubled down. He said the real story is not one invitation. It is what the missing invitation reveals, that the monarchy may already have decided who belongs in the future picture and who remains outside the frame. Now royal watchers are asking the question nobody can ignore. But was this a misunderstanding inflated by gossip, or a quiet message sent without ever needing to be spoken? Because in palace culture, sometimes the loudest move is the one never announced. The tears, the whispers, the outrage, the silence, it all points to something bigger building beneath the surface. And if Meghan believes her daughter is being erased by inches instead of miles, then this drama is only beginning. What makes this alleged invitation drama so explosive is that royal history has always been built on symbolism, and symbolism is where the deepest wounds are often delivered. No angry statement is required. No formal rejection letter is needed. Sometimes all it takes is a missing chair at a private table, one absent name on a discreet list, one family photograph never taken, and suddenly the message becomes louder than any press conference ever could. That is why this story refuses to die. It touches the one area more sensitive than titles, money, or headlines: belonging. According to watchers following every movement, Meghan reportedly understood immediately that if Lilibet was quietly left out now, future moments could become even harder to reverse. Today, it may be a private planning session. Tomorrow, it could be balcony appearances, milestone ceremonies, holiday gatherings, or the next generation narrative being built publicly without Harry's children anywhere near it. In royal life, the future is often staged years in advance, and once the frame is set, outsiders rarely get edited back in. That is why emotion reportedly spilled over. Not because of one event, but because of what it suggested. Meghan has long been accused of fighting for status, while critics claim she walked away from duty. Supporters say she simply wanted dignity and protection. But both sides understand understand one truth. Children change the stakes. Adults can feud. Adults can separate. Adults can trade accusations for years. But when children appear to inherit the consequences, public sympathy shifts instantly. Piers Morgan leaned straight into that tension. He reportedly argued that the palace now faces a contradiction of its own making. If the Sussex children remain publicly acknowledged as prince and princess, then distancing them privately creates confusion. If they are family, treat them like family. If they are outside the working fold, then explain the structure honestly. But the middle ground, titles with distance, recognition with exclusion, prestige without presence, is exactly the kind of muddled arrangement that keeps scandals alive. Then came another rumor that sent the conversation into overdrive. Some observers claim this was not really about Lilibet at all, but about control over Harry. The theory was simple and ruthless: create emotional distance around the children and pressure naturally lands on the parents. Whether true or not, that interpretation spread fast because it fit the long-running pattern many believe defines this saga. Nothing is ever only personal, everything is strategic. Back in Montecito, insiders described the atmosphere as tense and deeply frustrated. Meghan reportedly saw the story as proof that no matter how many olive branches are discussed in public, the private reality remains frozen. Harry, according to those speculating, was said to be more conflicted than angry. Torn between the family he came from and the family he built, he allegedly found himself trapped in the same painful space that has followed him for years. Loyalty in two directions, peace in neither. And then there is the shadow nobody can ignore, Prince William. Many believe the future king's approach to the monarchy is already influencing decisions now. A smaller, tighter institution, fewer blurred boundaries, less tolerance for freelance royal branding. If that is the path, then the next generation hierarchy becomes brutally clear. George, Charlotte, Louis at the center, everyone else orbiting farther out. In that model, Harry's children may always carry royal names while standing outside royal function. To Meghan, say critics and supporters alike, that would be the ultimate insult. Public titles that look glamorous to outsiders, but private distance that becomes painful behind the scenes. Because what is a title worth to a child if it does not come with connection? What is a grand royal label worth if birthdays, holidays, and memories happen elsewhere? Piers Morgan then pushed the harshest question of all. Was the palace quietly correcting what it sees as years of confusion? In other words, had the institution finally decided that emotional ties cannot override constitutional priorities? If so, then the invitation rumor was not a snub. It was policy in soft clothing. Still, not everyone agreed. Some royal watchers insisted the whole thing could be exaggerated gossip born from a simple logistical reality. Transatlantic schedules, security concerns, school calendars, strained relations, and private preferences could explain everything without any grand conspiracy. But that calmer explanation struggled to compete with the emotional power of the alternative story. Because scandal always moves faster than nuance, and pain always grabs more attention than practicality. Meanwhile, the public reaction split sharply. Meghan supporters blasted the palace for punishing innocent children over adult disputes. Critics of Meghan argued that years of interviews, documentaries, memoir claims, and public attacks naturally damaged trust. Others simply looked at the children and wondered how any of this could be healthy for them at all. That may be the saddest layer of this entire saga. Two children growing up oceans away, carrying some of the most famous surnames and titles in the world, yet surrounded constantly by arguments over what they mean. Every mention becomes controversy. Every photograph becomes analysis. Every family rumor becomes global content. It is a heavy inheritance for children who never asked for any of it. And Meghan, according to the story now spreading, reportedly broke down because she saw the long road ahead. Not one missed invitation, but years of possible distance. Not one headline, but a pattern. Not one rumor, but the fear that the royal family's future image is being assembled in real time with her daughter placed just outside the frame. Now the palace remains silent, Harry remains publicly restrained, Meghan remains the center of debate, and Piers Morgan remains exactly where he thrives most, at the center of a firestorm he helped ignite. Whether the invitation existed, whether the snub was real, whether the tears happened exactly as claimed almost becomes secondary once the story reaches this size. Because perception is everything in royal drama, and right now the perception is brutal. One side sees a mother hurt for her child. Another sees consequences catching up. Another sees a monarchy coldly protecting itself. But everyone sees the same thing. The gap between California and the palace feels wider than ever. And if a child named after the late queen is now being linked to exclusion from royal moments, then the symbolism could not be sharper. A name chosen to honor the past, caught in a battle over the future. That is why this controversy keeps burning. Because beneath the gossip, beneath the outrage, beneath the headlines, one question refuses to disappear. When the next chapter of the monarchy is finally written, will Harry and Meghan's children be part of the family portrait or only part of the story told outside it?